Good morning, all. Good morning. We set aside this time for brief announcements that will be of interest to our community and friends. Please be succinct when announcing upcoming events or updates. If you have an announcement, please raise your hand. When Julia or I call upon you, come up to the podium or unmute yourself and then speak. Do we have any announcements? Arthur.
Well, good morning. We are coming up on our election time once again, so if there are persons that haven't been contacted, and we are still contacting some of you, or if there are those of you who have changed your mind or are out of town or something like that, please let either myself or Rebecca Hendricks or Kathy Persinger know that you'd be interested in some of our available positions. We want to make this as open and inclusive as democratic a process as possible. So just to let you know, we will be coming up on our deadline pretty soon, so please get in touch with us if you're interested.
Dolores. And in relation to that election, it's the congregational meeting and luncheon, which is November 16th. So don't go anywhere or plan anything.
Next week, Dolores Miera will present our UU values on generosity. Let us take a moment to still our hearts, quiet our minds, and center ourselves. Come as you are, with your doubts, your stumbles, your tender regrets. There is nothing in you that love cannot hold. In this community, we do not run from our shame. We offer its sunlight and watch it transform into understanding. Together we breathe in forgiveness and breathe out courage. Together we remember we are already enough. Randy Schwelby will light the chalice here in the sanctuary, and those of you at home are invited to light your own chalice now. The symbol for today and tomorrow that carries the spirit of the dove is a flame that's symbolic for joy and sorrow, along with forgiveness and for love. Before we sing the first hymn, let me remind our remote participants to leave yourself muted. However, we want you and whoever is with you to sing with us as big and loud as you'd like. Make it a joyous experience. Please stand in body or spirit and sing the opening hymn, Gather the Spirit, number 347.
Gather the Spirit, harvest the flower, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit of heart and mind, by the sun, winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist community of Cambria. We are glad you have joined us today. Our UUCC sanctuary sits on land that the Salinan and Chumash indigenous peoples historically inhabited. Conflicts among Chumash were often resolved through mediated discussion, with elders or chiefs directly involved. There would be social pressure to restore harmony. There are accounts of Chumash people practicing in secret traditional religious ceremonies despite suppression, which suggests an internal sense of maintaining integrity in face of external shame or coercion by missionaries. Secret practices may have helped preserve self-esteem and community dignity. Some transgressions might be quietly addressed. Others might be publicly acknowledged. Shame may motivate self-restraint, avoiding behaviors that would cause shame, including modesty in dress, speech, resource use, and spiritual behavior. We honor their contribution to this region and give thanks for the opportunity to gather for their unceded territory. Let us respect their legacy and protect their history as we occupy this sacred space. As Unitarian Universalists, we celebrate religious diversity and welcome all who journey in search of faith and spirituality. The UUCC is lay-led congregation run by the democratic process. We invite speakers from different religious traditions and spiritual or scientific backgrounds, as well as community leaders to speak at our pulpit. We encourage presentations covering a variety of topics and areas that interest and connect us with the UU7 principles and 6 values: equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, justice, and interdependence, with love at the center. Today's service centers around the first principle. We affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And the fourth principle, we affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. My name is Diane DeMarco, and I am your worship associate for this morning's service. We extend a special welcome to today's guests and visitors. We're glad you joined us this morning. If you wish, please introduce yourself or your guest. If you are not on the mailing list, please visit the UUCC website at our uuccambria.org so that we can keep you informed about all of our activities. Members and friends, please check out what's happening, the e-blasts sent to you every week. This is a great way to keep up to date with our latest news. To see this or any other past Zoom services, the recordings can be found on the UUCC website. So again, good morning and welcome to everyone. The affirmation is both a recognition of the nature of this community as well as a promise to which we aspire. Let us now recite the UUCC affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. Now is the time for sharing your heartfelt joys and concerns and in your spiritual community. Please feel free to come forward and briefly express a personal celebration, sorrow, reflection, or gratitude. The collective flames of these candles embody all the joys and concerns which may have gone unspoken today, but are deeply felt in this community. The first reading is a brief compilation of quotes. Shame corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change. Brené Brown. We desperately don't want to experience shame, and we're not willing to talk about it. Yet the only way to resolve shame is to talk about it. That was also Brené Brown. And shame is a soul-eating emotion. Carl Jung. I invite you now to take a slow, gentle breath, readying for the meditation. As you remember, we are not alone, and we are already whole. With each breath, may we soften the harshness within and open our hearts to kindness for ourselves and for one another. When love and compassion are present in us, and we allow the soul the freedom to sing and dance, we can feel the vibrations of self-acceptance, and further, in sending love outward, we may notice a change in our own heart. The second reading is a compilation of quotes from Craig Penner's clients. Rejection is woven right into the fabric of shame. I can't get rid of shame. If I get close to my shame, it will only get worse. It's my fault, and there is no doubt. Please stand in body or spirit and sing Break Not the Circle, number 323.
Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the
Today's talk is titled Shame, Persistent, Difficult, Approachable, to be delivered by Craig Penner. Craig Penner, licensed MFT, is a psychotherapist, consultant, and trainer in private practice in Cambria, California, after 40 years in Santa Barbara. He brings a non-interpretive, process-oriented approach to therapy with a strong somatic body nervous system focus. He has always believed that we have a natural drive to completion and resolution, and that therapy is most effective when it is based in a deep trust in that nature. Craig.
Thanks, Diane. Okay. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
To all of you who come out on a Sunday morning to talk about shame. What a weird thing to do. There we go. So I'm entitling this Shame, and it's persistent, it's difficult, and it's approachable, which we don't always think. So this is going to be a slightly different talk about shame.
We move the mic up a little bit.
Up, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Good, okay. Because we're not going to be talking, there's a lot of things out there about shame that are helpful. There's a lot of good books and YouTubes and all sorts of things. But so as opposed to talking about shame itself so much today, we're going to talk about what makes it so hard to approach it, because we all tend to avoid it. So I'll start out telling the story. It was interesting. It was years ago when I was 61, which is years ago, which is weird. But I was training with this group of people, and we had been together for about 8 years. And I was actually one of the younger people in the group. So there were lots of people in their later 60s and 70s and some in their 80s. And so this one day we're focusing on working with shame. And as I'm sitting in there with all these people, and these are people who are thoughtful people, high self-reflection, really committed to the personal growth. And we're all talking about our shame. I'm going, that's so interesting that after all these decades, people still have unresolved shame. So, shame's challenging to work with for myself and in therapy also, but it started pushing me like, what is it about this that makes it so hard to approach? So, you can have all these people, and chances are most or maybe all of them have some shame still cooking, right? And they may be aware of it, they may not. We all learn to kind of override it. But it's such a common thing, and the persistence of it is so strong. So for me, shame is really more than a simple emotion. It's really a complex, highly tangled of emotions and beliefs with a nervous system that gets activated so strongly that it makes accessing these beliefs and emotions difficult. Right? We can't really get to them, right? And so we need to really address this differently. So these emotions may include things like, and think for yourself, you feel rejected, ostracized, lack confidence, right? We tend to feel isolated, we get overly apologetic, we feel like a failure, we minimize ourselves. Whoops. So when this happens, it feels so bad that avoidance dominates. It's hard to stay with it. So the shame persists, it keeps going. And so shame's hard to work with if we treat it as a simple emotion, because it just doesn't get accessed in the same way. So shame also promotes a painful feeling of smallness. People tend to kind of contract with it, worthlessness, powerlessness, and a separation from self. And then you look at this woman, that kind of a feel that goes with it. It's just so hard to just be yourself there. So there's really an unshakable judgment that's experienced as intolerable and humiliating, and it feels unworkable. Like, I'm just not going to go there. And this is a quote from one of my clients that said, "There's no path out. I feel this and there's just no way to address it. The best I can do is try to live around it." Not uncommon. So what makes shame so difficult to access and to work through that we can drag it around for decades? So we're going to talk today about looking at the process with shame. What happens with that emotionally, cognitively, and in the nervous system, because that's a big piece about what makes it so hard to access. So what's your reaction when shame comes up? So I'm going to ask you to do something for a second. And this is voluntary, you can do it or not. Think of something that you feel or have felt ashamed about. So just take a moment. You don't have to share as a group. And it often brings this kind of a response up, right? This kind of hiding thing. So as you do this, notice any sensations that you feel in your body right now as you connect with that. If there's any movement there, we tend to, often there's like a kind of constriction or a closing in, right? So even if it's subtle, say like, oh yeah, I can feel that, right? Any movements that go with it or postures. Sometimes the head goes down or whatever it might be for you. Any emotions that come. Any thoughts that come up or self-judgments? Or being annoyed with me for asking? So it's really hard to self-reflect or engage from there. Right? Who wants to stay with that? It's just hard. So hiding, humiliation, and avoidance tend to really dominate. So it's really hard to be hiding in that place and to really be able to self-reflect at the same time. This is really difficult. And this is really part of the key for shame's longevity. It's that difficulty self-reflecting. So there's a lack of resiliency there. There's a lack of ability to really stay present, and that's what it takes to take on something that's difficult. So we'll return to this later, this idea of resiliency. So one of the things that I find so important is that shame really creates this sequestered place. It's like, you're stuck in there. And we don't even realizing that questioning is not allowed, or it's not an option. We can't even feel that we're not going there and asking more questions. So approaching this, all the survival energy goes towards not feeling it, or even the beginnings of that awareness. We just like, oh, I feel bad about that. We just move away quickly. It's hard to stay with. The stakes tend to be very high because it feels so threatening, because there's a sense of self in there. So remember Hawthorne's book, The Scarlet Letter, where she was had to wear this A, right, on her chest for her whole life because she was an adulteress. So there's often public shaming, and we're certainly seeing a lot of efforts of that these days, right? And it can happen in families where it's done, and it can also just happen privately, individually. Like a lot of people feel shame about something that they never even share with anybody else, but then there's a sense about somehow being wrong just with myself privately, and I'm going to try to stay away from that too. So there's beliefs and silent conclusions of oneself that get taken in very strongly with this inability to really question at the same time. It's a tough bind. So besides the A, what are some other letters that we could put on ourselves, right, or feel? Like too sensitive, nose too big, right? Nose too small, body's not good, I'm wrong, it's my fault. not good enough, not whatever enough, not tall enough, not short enough, not rich enough, not whatever, right? And things like bad person, where it's just in there. Like I've just made this conclusion, I'm a bad person, and I can't really question it. So I've got to live with this thing over here that I really can't question, but it's pushing me around. And unlovable. And this comes out so often when people really start thinking about being in a relationship. If anybody really knows me, they're going to find out this truth. It's so awful. So we tend to move away, tend to distract, pretend, blame, scroll, whatever is going to take our attention so we don't have to feel how bad this feels. And so it's hard to be in situations where we feel ashamed and then to think about it later. It's hard to be in the moment, but it's hard to go back and reflect on it. Another thing that makes it hard to resolve. So it takes a lot of awareness to hold something that feels this awful, and it also sends a danger signal internally. So let's take a look at the nervous system's role in all this, because this is a big part that I think doesn't get addressed. So I gave you all this, you all have this handout, so we won't take a lot of time with this morning, but look at this for a second. And this is kind of a simple model of the nervous system. And in the middle section, in this kind of window of tolerance or presence or resilience, this is where we feel okay. We can feel like ourselves. we can meet difficult moments without being overwhelmed. People can be in a place of curiosity even with things that are difficult. So it doesn't mean necessarily feel good, but it means you're present and can address things. So on a nervous system level, if we're there and something starts to read as dangerous, then you've probably all heard about that fight-flight thing, right? And there's something called the sympathetic nervous system that kicks in, that starts taking us involuntarily into the experiences on the top of that sheet. So take a moment, and you may want to come back and look at this later for yourself. Take a moment and just look, do I experience any of the things on top there? Maybe occasionally, maybe frequently, maybe not at all. Because we're all on there. We all do this stuff, right? And again, it happens involuntarily. This is your nervous system stimulating these kind of responses in your body. If these get overwhelmed, right? If we can't fight, we can't run, and we get hit that sense of hopelessness, there's another part of the nervous system that kicks in involuntarily that takes us down to the stuff on the bottom. So look at that stuff down there also, and see any of that seem familiar to you. And again, these happen spontaneously for us, where nobody asks these things to happen, they just do. And as you're looking at these, just also take a moment and notice any emotions coming up for you as you see yourself on this sheet. And any physical responses that you may be feeling right now. Oh, I can get tight there, I kind of slump there. So this is important because these, again, happen involuntarily, and they impact our resilience, our ability to stay in that middle section here. Because when you think about it for yourself, if you're up at the top or at the bottom, how's your thinking? Right? Is it really as clear as it can be? How's your ability to stay with things that are difficult and actually work through them? Because our resilience gets compromised when our nervous system takes us up to the top or down to the bottom. We just can't do as well. So let's take a look at the nature of our nervous system. Consider that, again, there's no verbal language to these reactions. right? It's like when your skin contracts when you're cold. You don't do it on purpose. It just happens. So the dangers, excuse me, the danger signals in the nervous system, my throat's going, they release, excuse me, they release adrenaline and cortisol into the bloodstream. And these things are what push us beyond our resiliency so we can't think and be present so much. So we go into that kind of fight-flight response, or if that gets shut down, we go into that more helplessness, fawning, freezing reaction that's, again, so hard to deal with. So that it's these hyper or hypo aroused reactions that compromise self-reflection. So notice what you experienced just now as you stayed with us. And you could feel how some of these responses, again, they happen without our intention. And I'm repeating this because this is so crucial. So the nervous system can experience danger and all these tangled emotions. So think about, let's say, and unfortunately for me this wasn't true, but let's say my father was very demeaning and shaming and neglectful and cruel to me. So I would have this sense about my dad, right? And somebody would say my dad, or I would see my dad, and it would bring up all these bad feelings, and the nervous system's going, oh no, and it's getting this danger response. So the memory comes up, and this nervous system response of danger gets velcroed on right there. So then when somebody says my dad, I don't just say my dad, my whole body responds with it as well. So I'm sure you've all had that experience, right? Something's happened long ago, you bring it up now, or the memory comes up, and it comes up, and your nervous system responds as if it's happening now. And you can feel how that happens. So it can be, my dad's been dead 20 years, and somebody says my dad, and it comes up with this nervous system activation at the same time, because there's no language here. So just knowing he's dead doesn't seem to impact the nervous system, and it keeps holding on. And it seems like a design flaw, but this is what we got, right? So the interesting thing here is that we can know this and not have it make a difference, or a little bit of difference. But what we found is if we hold awareness of the physical sensations longer, so I think about my dad, this comes up, I get a tightness in my throat, my chest and my breath constrict, I get this nauseous feeling in my gut, all this stuff happens. If I can hold those sensations longer in my awareness, so I'm staying with it longer, the nervous system has the capacity to assess, is it ecological that this is still dangerous? And when we hold them longer, the nervous system is capable of starting to release this response that we've been with for so long. We just thought it was, this is how it goes. So when this starts to release, the memory is still going to be bad, but it doesn't have to bring up this danger response in my body anymore, which makes such a difference in how people can move through and face their shame or other issues as well, and be able to actually work through them so that this doesn't persist year after year, decade after decade. So it's this phenomenal thing in our nature that sustaining awareness of the physical sensations helps the whole system work through in a different way. But our inclination is not to do that. It's not to stay with those things so spontaneously. But it's nice to know that there's a way through. So hence the persistence of shame, right? It's hard to hold the awareness long enough to get through it. We move away, and then we got the same thing going on over and over again. So if we can't stay present enough to really question what's going on and to resolve it, how's it going to change, right? And then we just push it away and just keep moving around it. And, we all do this. So with most problems, something comes up for you, and it takes more sustained awareness. Like, this is a difficult thing. I don't know what it is yet. I stay with it longer, and if I do, that's going to help me be able to work through something, right? It takes more awareness to move something towards resolution. So what happens if we can't sustain awareness, if we can't do that? Now we're in a dilemma with our own nature. So let's take a look at that. How does our nature work? Diane mentioned in the beginning that for me, that I feel this, we have this strong drive for completion that's part of how we're built. We're always trying to take things full circle. We're trying to take things to resolution. So think about it. If something bugs you and you can stay with it and resolve it, it doesn't bug you so much anymore. If it bugs you and you can't stay with it, maybe, here's this drive for completion, maybe our own anxiety stops us or the world stops us in some way. So we're trying to work through it and we get caught there. So we still have that same drive, but it can get interrupted. And it takes sustained awareness. It takes holding awareness longer to really facilitate that drive. It's there, but we also have the capacity, and if we're overwhelmed, to disconnect, to not complete, but there's consequences. Right? There's consequences because the awareness it takes to work through doesn't get access, so we get left with this thing unfinished. So I'm sure you've all had things come up for you, memories that are bad or something, and you go, just go away, right? It's like, I don't want to think about this. And you can push them away for a while, and they come back up anyway. Why would they come back up? Right? There's something in us that pushes the stuff back up. So things that are important to us, they resurface because we have this drive for completion. So it's very helpful for working through, and it's a real pain when we don't, because like I don't want to keep thinking about this, and I do. This is a strange phenomenon, but this is what we have to work with. So the drive for completion keeps pushing even when we don't want it to sometimes. And when we can stay with it, that really helps us get to a different place for being able to work things through. So there's tension as a result, right? Something's trying to work through and we're stopping it and we don't even know it. And so just this pressure creates tension inside us, which is going to show up emotionally. It's also going to show up physically in our bodies. So we have this thing where our drive to complete is at odds with our drive to protect. And there's consequences when we're pushed out of that, back to your sheet, out of that middle range where we function well. Now we're trying to deal with something difficult with a place of limited capacity. So shame really has this very strong disconnecting dynamic. It separates us from ourselves in certain ways, separates us from others. And for people, it often feels like there's no way back. I can't get back there. I can't work on this. I start to go towards it and it's like, can't do it. So there's separation from self on every level, cognitively, emotionally, spiritually, and on a somatic, on a body level. And we may, try to act like things are okay. We all have to do that at times, and sometimes we do it, right? Right? Or there's something that we want to say, but there's no way to say it authentically. So either we don't say it or we have to put on some kind of a different affect to be able to express it because we can't really get to it, or perhaps the people around us, the society or whatever won't let us do it. So other things come up, other problems that we have, and we have the ability to stay present and to work through this stuff. So what makes shame so difficult? Other things you work through, and shame persists for decades. It's bizarre. So the dilemma that I see is that we don't really get to question what feels so bad or hold the questions long enough to really be helpful. I feel bad about something that I feel shameful about. I start to think I move towards it, and all of a sudden, like, I've lost my focus, or I can't stay with it. Right? And everybody's probably experienced that in some way. So it's this kind of a thing where I can't speak it out loud, and maybe I can't even speak it to myself really either. So one of my clients said, like, why should I question what I already know is true? Right? Because it's held in there as just absolute truth, but without the discernment to really check that out. Or somebody else said that the shame I feel means that I deserve to feel the shame that I feel. Right? So it becomes this tautology, this loop, right? It's like, I can't even approach it. Why approach it? You know, I'm worthless. There's nothing to be done there. I often hear therapists say, don't go there. It's going to make your client feel ashamed, because it's often hard in therapy to work with shame if we're not really taking on the kind of dynamics that are behind it. So how can we approach this confounding dilemma? It takes being resilient or present enough, that middle range on that sheet there. And we can get driven out of it all the time, but it's paying attention enough so we can try to regain that presence enough to sustain the awareness. And the awareness is going to be the thing that helps us get through. So it's not easy, but it's possible. Sometimes it's kind of like this guy where it's like, okay, am I really going to take this on? What's for lunch? Right? We could move away. So it helps us to know, in a sense, what we're up against if we're going to take this on, because it challenges us in so many ways. And if we don't realize, wow, this is really difficult, and I'm going to have to do something different, then it's going to be another decade. So what I find is that a somatic or a body-focused approach really helps to stay with this process. And I'll give a few thoughts about that. And so the first thing is when you think about the example I gave before, like if I had that dad and I had this going on in my nervous system, the first step is, if I can notice, it's like, oh, I feel that, and it's hard to stay with the emotion. If I can stay with the physical sensations that go with it, so I start to feel bad, and I can feel this tightness in my throat and my lack of breath and the nausea in my stomach. If I can hold those sensations longer, then again, that nervous system has a chance to go, is this still dangerous? But it takes the sustained awareness to do it. It's like how many fingers? If it goes by too fast, there's not a chance to work it through. So if we can even start going, oh, I feel that tightness in my throat, that extra time gives the nervous system a chance to go, really? Right? Does it really have to do that? If we can stay with ourselves a little bit longer, that lets us stay more in that middle range on that sheet of the window of tolerance. So it lets us bring more awareness to the next moment that's coming up. So it's noticing our physical sensations, right, that brings presence there. And that chance to reassess that danger response non-verbally starts to make shame more accessible. So it's like, I can tell you that I've got a foot without really being present, right? You have a foot? Yep, right? But if I'm really going to tell you any about the sensations of my foot, I have to really be present. Right? I have to really be able to notice, and it takes that presence. So here we're bringing more presence in when the nervous system is challenging being present. Right? Can you feel the bind there? So we need that presence for that danger response to have a chance to work through, to get a meaningful update. Is that still the case? So noticing sensation really requires a different attention than just thinking, because we can think about this stuff, but it's hard to stay present if we're thinking and we're getting overwhelmed by the thought. So a cognitive approach is often a limited approach to try to deal with it, which is one reason people try to work on it and they can't really work through very well. So this is kind of a strange thing, that it seems like awareness of physical sensation is the language of the nervous system. There's no language in these body responses, but if we bring awareness to it, it starts to make a difference. Otherwise, we're talking to this guy, right? And we can't get it. So our nervous system also has its own drive for completion, right? And if we hold the awareness longer, the nervous system also has a chance to work through. This is really a phenomenal part of our nature that I think often gets under-assessed and underutilized. So we can intervene directly on a nervous system level that language can't get to. We can do that, and it's really helpful when we do. And the resiliency, that middle range on that sheet there, can expand when we do this. And this is really true. I see this happen all the time. So this is really a moment-by-moment process. Each moment builds on the preceding one. So you have one moment where you get expanded resiliency because you're staying more present. That means the next moment gets to be met with more presence. So instead of having the first moment bring up this, oh no, I can't stay with it, push beyond our resilience, if I, instead of going there, I can stay more present, the next thing that comes up, because there's that drive for completion, is going to bring a next piece up, gets to be met with more presence. Now we have a chance to work through it differently. So this type of movement lets us take on shame that's been inaccessible for years or decades. So today I'm suggesting that there's a key to being able to unlock a door that may have felt impenetrable. Like I'm just haven't been able to go there. And there's a huge difference between this being an impossible task and being a possible task. Because a lot of times it's like, no, it's not. So sustaining awareness, holding awareness longer is really a key to being able to access that part of our own nature. And for me, this is such a profoundly important part of how we are built, that awareness is the facilitator of this drive for completion. And awareness is often hard to hold. So this asks for a significant commitment for all of us to persist through it. And the persistence can facilitate a reconnection to yourself, a new inner sense of safety. And this is a big deal, right? This is possible. So may your soul rejoice, right, in the freedom if you take this on. Right? And no matter how old your shame is, it's still workable. It never becomes unworkable. So thank you for having me, and I hope this is helpful.
Thank you. The morning offering will now be given and received. Please remember, we are a self-sustaining congregation and provide all financial resources for our many ministries. We recognize the spiritual value of generosity and invite you to participate. If you are viewing this service remotely, please use one of the methods shown on the screen. Thank you. Our thanks for all the gifts given and received for the work of this community. Please stand in body or spirit and sing the closing hymn, We Would Be One, number 318.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which finds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service with love and justice strive to make us free.
As we prepare to extinguish the chalice, let us recite the valediction. The flame of this chalice will no longer burn today, but the light of the flame within our hearts continues to shine brightly, illuminating the love felt in our community. Please extinguish your chalice at home now. And now let's form a circle and join hands.
Okay, so it's never too late to search and approach your shame and thereby access your enduring nature. So may we take full advantage of the blessing of how awareness actually works with our nature.
Blessed be.